How you doing, guys? Welcome to ZukaTube, and today we're going to be reviewing Deadpool and Wolverine. It just came out July 26, 2024, and there's a whole bunch to talk about with this one, but you know, everybody generally knows what these types of movies are. You know, the big hype was first announced when they had the little, video with Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman, and they're talking back and forth, and they're like, oh, you want to do a movie together? He's like, all right. And then that's it. And everybody went crazy, right? So, okay. So I'm going to read you the description. I'll talk a little bit about this film. And then I'm going to go through, I'm going to give you some pros and cons, give you my review, and then we'll do some spoilers at the end. Before we start, like, comment, share, subscribe, all that fancy stuff. Now let's get into this, right? The description for this is, Deadpool's peaceful existence comes crashing down when the Time Variance Authority recruits him to... I can't do it with this. Deadpool's peaceful existence comes crashing down when the Time Variance Authority recruits him to help safeguard the multiverse. The multiverse. All right. He soon unites with his would-be pal Wolverine to complete the mission and save his world from an existential threat. Okay. So you see in the trailer, it starts out, he gets pulled in by the Time Variance. He's living his life. He gives up the Deadpool thing. He's kind of just being a random car salesman. It gets to this point where, there's a knock on the door. It's the Time Variance Authority out there, the TVA. And I can't stand the TVA, the multiverse, the everything. It was all garbage. It sucked in Loki. It sucked with the Ant-Man thing with Kang. It sucked with just the multiverse in general. I can't stand it. But either way, right? They tell Deadpool that there's basically an anchor being and something happens. And that incursion is going to basically destroy his world, right? And they show that it's Logan. Okay, so Logan is the person who is dying and causing the incursion that's collapsing the world, right? Which doesn't make sense because obviously, like, if you watch Logan, it's like 2029 or something like that, and it's a future kind of weird apocalyptic setting, right? And this is apparently years before that in a different universe. Somehow, an incursion that happens in the future somehow affects the past of another world and suddenly makes it crash down to a big halt randomly in the past. So I'm a little confused right there, right? But either way, that's more of a pros and cons type of thing. But let's get into this, right? And he's got to go and he's got to get a Wolverine to basically help him. And he decides that, like, they give him an opportunity to basically go through and help save a bunch of worlds from, being destroyed and all this stuff but he's like, nah, man, I'm going to save my world. And he says, screw the TVA. And he goes out on a wild goose chase for Wolverines. And then him and his buddy, they go through and they wreak havoc trying to fix this and fix Deadpool's world, right? That's the basic gist of things. I mean, there's a lot of complexities and stuff, and there's a lot of plot holes and like very weird, confusing aspects of the plot that kind of contradicts itself throughout. And I'll talk a little bit about some of the things, right? But overall, this is like a really fun, just buddy cop kind of movie. Not like a buddy cop movie, but it's like a bromance. These dudes are just going through a big duo, kicking ass. They kind of hate each other, but they kind of work together the whole time because they know they have to, right? And it's this big thing. There's plenty of cameos, plenty of nostalgia, all the ridiculous comedy, and a ridiculous amount of just extreme, like, homoerotic comedy with this guy. That's all it is. But if you've watched any Ryan Reynolds movies, like Waiting, Van Wilder, stuff like that, like it's just Ryan Reynolds comedy, like, all the time. That's just his thing. It just happens that there happens to be a character called Deadpool that he can kind of play the role for because it fits his comedy style. He has to go through and find the right Wolverine for the job. And you find a younger but still older Wolverine, not like Logan age, but he's, drunken, beat down. He basically failed in his universe, and he's going to get that one to go and help him fix this, right? And he's got to go through, and they've got to stop this one character, Cassandra Nova. Now, Cassandra Nova is a character that basically is stuck in the void It's a clone of, not a clone of Xavier, but like basically a twin of Xavier. It's like an alternate story. It's a bunch of garbage. No one cares. But either way, this character is, one of the, I guess, like the MacGuffin type deal. And you have to go through, they have to find this character. They have to figure out a way to stop this character from basically destroying and imploding everything and basically pruning people. Like if you're familiar with the TVA, they prune people, they put them into the void. And it's very similar to like the battle world and stuff like that from the comics, right? But they're there, they got to do that. And in that process, you get to see all these great cameos of all these pre-existing, characters from, the Fox universe and stuff like that. So that's really great. You get a lot of great comedy from that. They're going through, and you see all the different Deadpools, you see the different Wolverines, you see all the extra cameos. And in the spoiler section, I'll talk a little bit about some of those cameos. I don't want to really spoil it, but either way, everybody knows it, right? If you've been on the internet, you're seeing lots of stuff about this, right? The comedy overall is really fun. People were a little worried that with Disney being under the belt now, it's going to be a little bit of a problem, but they go out of their way to trash Disney a lot in this, talk about it, make some references, and you can also tell that they did have to take a couple steps back here and there because of the company, right? And that's just the way it goes now that you work with Disney. You work with whack-ass Disney. So with that all being said, I mean, this is a movie that is a lot of fun. I would say that gradually the quality of the Deadpool film story-wise just goes down, right? The first one's decent, second one's third one, no. Like this has just constant plot holes and contradicting points, and it's kind of pointless to why certain things are happening. But ultimately, all you really need to know about this film is that it's just a really fun film of Deadpool and Wolverine running around, getting to see some old faces, throwing a bunch of that nostalgia in there, and then just kind of just giving you a good time, showing you the things that you've wanted to see for a long time. And if you've watched the trailer, you know that suit is one of the things that we've been waiting for a couple decades now. Overall, the sound of this film is great. Like all the goofy songs they put in there and all that, really, really fun. Like, the Madonna song and all that, like it gets ridiculous, but there's definitely a little bit better, I would say, overall with some of the CG stuff than maybe the last one, because like the CG Juggernaut and stuff like that was a little so-so and everything, and just some of the CG overall in the first two Deadpool movies was okay. It was whatever, but this is a little bit better, still not great, but overall definitely just a good looking film throughout. All the costumes are pretty great. They do a really good job with that. Obviously, the TVA is useless junk. Nobody cares about what they look like and all those side characters. And Cassandra Nova's character, like, nobody cares. It's just like scrawny bootleg Charles Xavier that can walk. That's also a lady. So nobody cares. I would say overall with the way this film is shot, it's shot pretty well. The pacing is really weird. But as far as the shots themselves, they're really looking, once again, for the nostalgia bait and all that stuff and those great iconic shots. And they even take kind of a jab at some of the iconic shots by them putting instant comedy notes after it, a little punchline after. Like, they have the iconic Wolverine comic jump. He's going through the glass, his claws are out and everything. But then, like, Deadpool's there and silly stuff happens. But that's all really fun. Overall, though, the story, it's laughable. Like, you just kind of overwhelmingly forget about it. You just know constantly, like, he's got to just do things and hopefully his world will be saved. He's only got a certain amount of time, basically. And Cassandra Nova also wants to basically destroy the world, but destroy many worlds because she wants to create everything in the void and rule the void, right? I don't know. This is like a 7 out of 10. It's good, but it's not anything special. The things that carry this movie are the two main characters and all your little tastes of cameos, right? Otherwise, the story, you just forget about it by the end and you're like, man, do you remember this part? That was cool. You remember? Let's just go right into the spoilers and talk about some of the stuff we all want to talk about. Spoilers. Oh, man. we get to the end of the film, and there's the whole thing where Cassandra Nova does get the one-up on them, and then she basically goes to use this machine and destroy the worlds and have everything collide, and they have to go and stop her last minute, and it's this, like heartfelt, I want to do it, no, I'm going to do it, blah, 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 and then they both end up teaming up together, connecting, you know what I mean, holding hands kind of deal, bromance, hero action, and they save the day. And with the power of two of them, it manages, and their healing factor, it manages to save them from just dying along with this big kind of eruption of this machine or whatever. And then he brings them back over into his world, because now this Logan's in his universe and on his Earth, and Deadpool and him kind of hang out and pal it out at the end. And there's a lot of great cameos I want to talk about in this. Like, you get to see Blade, like OG Wesley Snipes Blade, and he makes the joke that he is and will be the only Blade, and starting to believe that now after this many directors and this many, switch ups on the movie that they're working on now with Mahershala. But you got to see Gambit, Channing Tatum's Gambit. I think they started, trying to pull that all the way. Talks were like in 2003, and now here we are, 2024. And you see him in the costume. Granted, now he could have lost a few pounds and got some contacts in his eyes, but the costume was great, and the action scenes were great. You saw Elektra. She came back. You saw some of the Marvel guys. Not the Marvel guys, like the X-Men Fox guys, You saw, like, Toad, Pyro. Colossus is obviously still in this. You saw Sabretooth, which kind of ended a little abruptly and ridiculous, but you get to see a lot of characters, like the old Juggernaut's back, but he didn't have to put on the big bodysuit. He was a little bit scrawnier this time around. There's just a couple characters that are just really awesome to watch. And when Deadpool and Wolverine team up with Blade, Elektra, and Channing Tatum, they go in and they try to stop Cassandra Nova, do their thing. And also X-23 is there as well. She's back. You almost forget about her because she doesn't get a costume. She only talks a little bit, and she's got a couple cool action scenes or whatever, but they don't really do too much to redeem any aspects of her compared to what they do for, like, Channing Tatum or Wesley Snipes or something, right? They have Chris Evans come in as the Human Torch, which is really funny because you think he's going to be Captain America, and then he just fails miserably, doing one of the dumbest things because, this is a pretty strong mutant, and this guy goes and right away uses his power to attack the only guy out of a large group of people that he can attack, Pyro, who just absorbs his energy, and then come on, man. But to see his skin get snatched by Cassandra Nova was pretty funny. That was really silly. And the sling ring stuff, where they're jumping through the sling ring at the end, and then the other ring opens back up and you see all the Deadpools come in and stuff like that, and the dog pool and Lady Deadpool, just all the ridiculous Deadpool stuff. That was really funny. It's a little bummer, I would say, that, like, you get the comic accurate Wolverine and you get the helmet at the end, but then the shoulder pads are gone at the end, so you don't get the full ensemble. You get this weird frumpy look where, like, the torso's overly padded, the arms look small, and the helmet's on. The shoulder pads would have made it, but man, like, it's hard to be like, beggars can't be choosers, right? Like, you're like psyched, but at the same time you're like, over 20 fucking years, bro, like, you can get it right. But really fun movie, just overall to just watch, have your laughs, have a good time. It really does nothing for the overall thing. Like, the multiverse is still open. It's a status quo thing, very much like a No Way Home type film where it starts and ends almost identically with only one minor thing different. And that is just whatever. Like, nobody cares. And I like how they just got rid of the Kang thing. They don't even mention Kang at all in The Void, which is crazy because when you're there, that's kind of the person ruling everything and that they constantly talk about. But now they talk about Cassandra Nova, like, oh, you didn't know? Everybody's ruled under her. Like, get out of here, bro. Like, they definitely had quite a hard time trying to make this all work. And I would love to see, like, a director's cut or a bunch of deleted scenes of just some of the fun stuff they put in there. But it was a good time. And it's a blip of just something nice that you're not going to probably get from Marvel for a long time. Most of the stuff they've got coming is a lot of multiverse stuff, a lot of garbage, a lot of diluted characters. You get Agatha, you get Captain Black Falcon America, just a bunch of junk, and nobody cares. And then you might not get anything good for a long time, but definitely enjoy this one while you can. Deadpool and Wolverine, I'm going to give this a solid 7. Zukatube out.
Cartoons now I'm looking like I'm styling and profiling. and they take it to the chest like woo.